Are you new to programming JavaScript? Then this tutorial is for you. Hi everyone, my name is Yazan, and I'm instructor at the Degree5 Academy. We upload new content on YouTube every Thursday. Today we're going to continue our JavaScript series with arrays methods. So if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe buttons. So let's hit it.
All right, so what we're going to talk about now are arrays, how you can create them, what's the purpose, and so on and so forth. And by the way, there are like a lot of ways to do or to loop through an array. There's the map, filter, find, sum, every. There is the for loops. There are so many ways to loop through an array. But here it's mostly about each one of it has its own like functionalities, why we use this over that, and basically there are there are differences between those. But for today, I'm not going to kind of cover all the ways or basically every way to do a loop through or to loop through an array, but just basically some of the built-in array methods that they are going to be mostly ES6 syntax, which are going to be really helpful to you in your hobby projects or your actual projects. So let's get to it. So what do we have here? We have maybe an array of salaries, and wait, I have a typo here, right? So, and then we have maybe 100, 50, or let's say 200, 300, and 400. Cool. So how can we loop through this array, and how can we, or what kind of things we can do about them? And then let's have another array that's maybe called it students, and the students is also an array of different objects. So let's say we have a name, it's a John here, and then we have maybe a class. We call it full stack, I don't know, 12, for example. And yeah, so maybe we need to have another one. So let's have 3 data here. Then let's change the names. What do we want to do? I don't know, Smith and Sky. Alrighty, so we have students here, mostly are from like, I don't know, maybe let's change this to 13 and let's change this to 14. So this is like the students what we have, but I'm going to collapse it for a moment and then we will get back to it later on. So what if you want to do, so you have an array of items and you want to somehow get the total, all right? So you want to say, cool, can I get the total of the salary? So there are multiple ways to do that, and definitely a lot of ways. Like for example, one of the ways you can just basically have a counter variable here, and then you have like a for of loop, and there's like it's all auto generated for me. Wait, I'll just call it I. It's a lot easier. Then this is the array. Well, which one is it? This is the salaries, and again I made a typo, and this is the, yeah, let's just have like that. So we can do it with the for loop. So this is basically the most basic one, the most kind of primitive one here. Or so we have a variable that keeps track of what is the current iteration. That's one, and then here there is another variable. You notice here there is a semicolon that separates them, and then the second variable here, or the second part here, is basically to we're checking, hey, what is the current iteration? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is 3? Is 4? What is it? Is it less than the length of the array? If it's less than the length of the array, then let's keep this loop on going. Right, but if it's not, then this will be false. Then the loop will break. So what does this mean? It means we got to the end of the array. There is no there are no more elements there in the array. So that's the idea here. So what usually people do is basically they say counter plus plus, and then or no, in this case here, what we're going to do here, we're going to say counter plus equal. So this is, we are gonna adding number to it, and then so in this case, let's say it's going to be salaries, the variable, or the array, and then the index. So if it's in the first iteration, you know, let me just get rid of this at least for now. Let's put it at the bottom. It's annoying me. So what it's happening here is, like, in the first iteration, then it's 100. So the 100 now will be here instead of the salaries IO. Salary index, and then that's in the 0 index. Then next one, when this is 1, then what it does is it means we're going to take the 200 here, and so on and so forward, until we just kill the loop and there's no more or the index, the current index is more than the length, or more than the length, then that's about it. That means there's no more elements that to loop with. So let me just undo this here. So right now, if I try to kind of console log let's call the total, let's call it total, just and then here there's the total. I should have just renamed them all at once. Anyway, we run it. You see, we get the total of 1,000. That's the total here. So that's one way. There are a lot of ways to do it. This is basic. We can use the reduce method, and so on and so forth. So, but let's just move on to the next one. So, what if at some point you want to basically change the shape of the array, or change the shape of the values of the array, so from something to another, and create another array. So in this case here, we could say maybe create another variable, salaries maybe next year. So everyone now will get a bonus here. So what we're going to do is we are going to use the .array.map built-in method. So we say salaries, we tell which array we're going to loop from, and then .map. So with this .map, it takes a callback function. So this could be either an arrow function. It's up to you how you want to do that, or it could be just a normal function declaration. But it's the normal function here declaration is just too long, and that's why I don't really prefer it here in this context. So I'll go with the arrow function, and here what we do is we return whatever we want to return from the function. Remember from the function tutorial we had before. So here, if you want to have access to every value in this iteration, like 100, 200, 300, 400, etc., then it lives here in this parameter. So we say a salary. You can call it whatever you want to call it. And then what you can do here, you can just say, all right, salary plus or multiply 2. So now everyone gets the double salary. So what this does is, basically it looked through this array and it created a whole total new array with a whole new value. So if you want to do something like that, then the .map is the way to do it. So if I try to now console log the salary next year, and then run it, you see that we get double for every value now, and it's a whole new array. It's not the same array. So that's one thing. Other things we could use is we could use the filter. So what if you want to, for example, filter? You want to maybe remove everything that is maybe less than 200. If something is less than 200, then just return that. So let's just that's a lot here. Okay, so let's run it, and now what happened here is, what we did is we returned only the salaries that they are less than 200. So maybe I would return greater than the 200, and then what are we going to get is the 300 and 400. So if you want to kind of filter out, remove some elements from an array, then then the filter is the way to go. So you could also apply this to students. So here what I could do is I could say something like that. I could say if we have students students dot let me assign it to a variable. Maybe I would say full stack 12 students. So if I want to only filter the ones that only in the FS12, then I would say dot filter, and then I would basically have the arrow function. So this is the arrow function here, and then I forgot how to type. And then remember, if you want to have access to the value in every iteration, here where it lives in this parameter, then we call it maybe a student. And what I want to do is I want to return if the student dot class is equal to FS12. So only return the students who are in this FS12 class, right? So if I now do a console log for that variable, you can see that the only thing that I get is this array of only this students. So that's kind of stuff that you could do with filtering if you're only interested in just removing some values and just keeping one. And filtering works with, it will return one or more values. So it returns multiple values or one. Yeah, but if you move on to the next one, we have the other way to do it. So let's just basically use the same code, but instead of filter, what we do is we use the find. So what is the difference here? So if I try now to save the file and run the code again, now you could see I received what? I received an object here in the code. So name, John, class, FS12. So what is the difference between filter and find? So filter, it returns an array of the results. It could be 0 or it could be 1 to many. And so with filter also as well, if it finds the first if it finds the first requirements, then it will continue looping. It will move on to the next iteration and so on and so forward until it reaches the end of the array and so on. But for find, what it does is it only finds either undefined or it finds the value, one value, only it returns once. So the idea here is it goes through the array, go through iteration after iteration, and the moment it meets the requirements, well, in this case here, student is in class FS12, the moment it meets the requirement, then it's going to break out the loop. It's not going to continue, and it will return not an array of the results, but the object only, just one object. So this is the differences between two. So if you're interested in finding one element from the array, then use find. If you're interested in finding multiple, then use filter. All right. So again, there are a lot of things to do, or a lot of methods, built-in methods, and way to loop. Each one depends on what do you really want to do. So next up here, what we can do is, let me just basically remove the entire thing here. I don't care about them, at least right now. There are a couple of things that are really helpful in these built-in arrays. So the first one is, let's just say here, I'm just thinking of what would be the variable name. Well, let's see what would be the variable name in later on, but let's see what we're going to do. So now we have the dot, we have the sum, and we have the array. So what is sum? So if you are really interested in finding out maybe if this array has at least one of these conditions met, like for example, what could be a good example here, or at least like values instead of salaries. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, but I mean, like, this example is already good enough. So so if I'm checking here, does this salaries, do we have at least a salary that is greater than 100, for example? Do we have this? And is every, for example, every salary is greater, it doesn't matter. So do we have at least one of this array that at least it's greater than 100? Then if I do that, and if I console log the value here, what I'm going to get is a true or false, because that's what this is what sum.sum returns. It returns true or false if it meets or doesn't meet. So in this case, it is true because like it goes to the first one. It's 100. It's not exactly greater. It's equal. So this is no. Then it goes to the 200. Then yeah, this is greater than 100. And that's it. It leaves the array. It leaves the loop, breaks the loop, and returns true. But what if, for example, what if you want to make sure that every single element in this array is more than 100? What you need to use here, you need to use the array.vary. Every. So array.every, it's going to make sure that every element in the array actually meets the condition. So if I try it running right now, what's going to return? A false. Why? Because yes, 200, 300, 400 are greater than 100, but 100 is not greater than 100. It's greater or equal this, or it's basically equal to 100. So one of the condition doesn't meet, or one of the element doesn't meet the condition here. So it's going to ignore the rest of them. Either if we have 3 trues and 1 false, it doesn't matter. The moment you have 1 false, it will return immediately false, because what we're trying to say here is every element must be greater than 100. So, but if I do something like, okay, this is 101, for example, and run it again, we get a true. Yeah, so that's here, like basically just some built-in array methods and what's the idea, what you can do and how you can do them. There are a lot of other ways to do that. So if you want to really kind of let me just here find you a resource for you. So let me just go ahead here and show. If you are really interested to know more about them and see what are the arrays that are available, you can check out the developer.mozilla, and here you have all the, see how many we have. There are a lot of like a ways to do it, and every one of it has its own kind of purpose and own reason of why it exists and what solution it provides. Cool. So that's about it about arrays.